Rain tapped softly against the office windows as Daniel Harper stared at the glowing resignation email on his computer screen. 12 years. 12 long years inside the same gray building, walking the same polished floors, answering the same demanding phone calls, and sacrificing every piece of himself to keep food on the table for his daughter. His fingers trembled above the keyboard while the city lights blurred behind tired eyes. Around him, employees laughed near the coffee station, discussing weekend vacations and expensive dinners, but Daniel could only think about the tiny hospital bracelet still wrapped around his daughter Lily's wrist at home. 8-year-old Lily had spent the last 3 months fighting a serious heart condition, and every late-night meeting Daniel attended felt like another moment stolen from her childhood. The company had promised flexibility. They had promised support. But promises disappeared whenever profits were involved. Last night, Lily had looked up at him from her hospital bed and whispered something that shattered him completely. "Daddy, are you always going to work?" She didn't cry when she asked it. That was the worst part. She had simply accepted it, like a child learning life hurts before she's even old enough to understand why. Daniel sat in silence for nearly an hour after hearing those words. Then, for the first time in 12 years, he chose his daughter over fear. His boss had warned him that quitting now would destroy his future. "Men your age don't get second chances," the manager had snapped earlier that morning. "You walk away from this company, you walk away from security forever." But Daniel no longer cared about promotions, bonuses, or polished office titles. None of them could buy back missed birthdays or bedtime stories. None of them could replace the look in Lily's eyes when she realized work mattered more than she did. Taking a deep breath, Daniel pressed send. The resignation email disappeared into cyberspace, carrying 12 years of loyalty with it. His co-workers stared as he quietly packed family photos into a cardboard box. Some whispered that he was making a mistake. Others avoided eye contact completely. Nobody understood what it feels like to watch your child slowly believe she comes second. Daniel walked out of the building carrying only the box in his arms and the terrifying uncertainty of unemployment in his chest. The rain hit harder outside, soaking his white shirt within seconds, but strangely, he felt lighter than he had in years. He drove home through silent streets, rehearsing how he would explain everything to Lily. He feared disappointing her. He feared losing their apartment. He feared becoming another broken father who couldn't provide. But when he opened the apartment door, Lily ran toward him smiling for the first time in weeks. "You're home early," she shouted, wrapping her tiny arms around his waist. Daniel held her tightly, fighting tears. "And I'm staying home tonight," he whispered. They spent the evening building pillow forts in the living room, eating cheap microwave popcorn, and watching old animated movies until Lily fell asleep against his shoulder. For the first time in years, Daniel felt like a real father again. But peace never lasts long for people who struggle. The next morning, Daniel woke to an eviction warning slipped under the apartment door. His savings were nearly gone after medical bills, and without a paycheck, they had maybe 6 weeks left before everything collapsed. Fear crept back into his chest. He searched online job listings for hours, but companies either offered impossible schedules or rejected him immediately. Days turned into weeks. Daniel sold his watch, canceled internet service, and skipped meals so Lily could eat properly. Still, he smiled every time she laughed, pretending everything would somehow work out. One evening, while Lily colored pictures at the kitchen table, the light suddenly shut off. The apartment fell into darkness. Daniel froze. The electric company had finally cut power. Lily looked up nervously. "Daddy." Before he could answer, there was a knock at the door. Daniel assumed it was the landlord. Exhausted and embarrassed, he slowly opened it, and nearly stopped breathing. Standing outside under the glow of the hallway light was Victoria Sinclair, the CEO of the billion-dollar company he had quit 3 weeks earlier. She wore a dark red coat soaked from the rain, her expression unreadable. Beside her stood a young blonde girl holding a stuffed teddy bear tightly against her chest. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. Daniel was too shocked to move. Victoria Sinclair was known across the country as one of the coldest and most untouchable businesswomen in America. Employees feared her. Investors worshipped her. Newspapers called her the Iron CEO. And now she was standing outside his tiny apartment carrying secrets in her eyes. Daniel finally found his voice. "You came all this way." Victoria glanced at Lily sitting quietly in the darkness behind him. Her face softened for just a moment before she looked back at Daniel. "I needed to tell you the truth," she said quietly. Daniel's heartbeat quickened. Victoria stepped inside after he awkwardly invited her in. She looked around the small apartment, the flickering candles, the unpaid bills on the counter, and Lily's drawings taped carefully across the walls. Something about the sight seemed to hit her harder than she expected. Her daughter remained silent beside her, staring shyly at Lily. Then Victoria took a deep breath and revealed the secret that changed everything. "The night you quit," she said, "I overheard what your daughter asked you at the hospital." Daniel's eyes widened. Victoria continued carefully. "I was there visiting my own daughter after surgery. She heard Lily ask if work would always matter more than family." Victoria's voice cracked slightly. "And my daughter looked at me and said, 'Mom, I think I feel like that too.'" Silence filled the apartment. Daniel couldn't believe what he was hearing. Victoria Sinclair, the ruthless CEO feared by thousands, suddenly looked less like a powerful executive and more like a mother carrying years of regret. Tears formed in her eyes as she looked toward her daughter. "You did something I was too afraid to do," she admitted. "You walked away before it was too late." Daniel stood speechless while Lily slowly approached Victoria's daughter and offered her a crayon. The two little girls sat together on the floor as if they had known each other forever. Victoria watched them silently before reaching into her purse and placing a folder on the table. "I'm not here to offer you your old job back," she said. "I'm here because your resignation changed me." Daniel opened the folder carefully. Inside was a proposal for a new position, one created specifically for parents balancing family and work. Flexible hours. Remote options. Full medical coverage for Lily. But that wasn't the biggest surprise. At the bottom was a handwritten note from Victoria herself. No parent should have to choose between survival and being there for their child. Daniel looked up, overwhelmed. For the first time in years, hope entered the room. Victoria smiled faintly through tears she no longer tried to hide. "Help me build a company where fathers don't have to miss their daughters growing up." Daniel glanced at Lily laughing beside Victoria's daughter in the candlelight, and suddenly every painful moment, every sacrifice, every sleepless night felt like it had led to this exact second. Sometimes the bravest decision doesn't save your career. Sometimes it saves your soul. And sometimes, when you choose love over fear, life opens doors you never imagined possible. If this story touched your heart, remember to subscribe to the channel for more emotional and inspiring stories that remind us what truly matters in life.